Welcome, everyone, to another podcast. How your summer going so far? I don't know, it's pretty cool out, but you're wondering, who is this lady on this side? Well, that's Clarissa Burt, and she's an actual legacy of light leadership. She's a Limelight. She's a global icon whose influence spans media, mentorship, and meaningful change. And get this, she was knighted by the Royal Order of Constantine the Great and Saint Helen and honored with the Araldo Award by Prince Albert of Monaco.
Mhm.
Clarissa stands among the world's most distinguished women with over 35 years in the entertainment industry. She's graced international screens as a supermodel. Oh, I gotta talk about that.
Mhm.
Actress, producer, and director, earning hundreds of television and film credits. And you can read a lot of them in her IMDb as well and her website, which we will link down in the description. As a founder and CEO of In the Limelight Media,
Media.
Clarissa
Mhm.
has built a multimedia empire that educates, empowers, and entertains. Her
Yeah.
platform includes television, video, a podcast heard on 50 global platforms. You said you're out of it for a while, but now you're starting it up again,
We're
right?
coming back in. Yep.
And a digital magazine with worldwide distribution. Through
Yes.
these channels, she amplifies the voices of entrepreneurs and changemakers, helping them share their stories of triumph and transformation. Her best selling book, The Self-Esteem Regime, I like that,
Thank you.
is more than a guide, it's a movement. Clarissa's signature four pillars: look good, feel good, be good, and greater good.
That's
Offer a
right.
practical framework for building confidence, resilience, and purpose. With her unique blend of humor, wisdom, and authenticity, she empowers readers to embrace their worth and live boldly. Clarissa's impact extends far beyond media. She was the first American to present Russian TV at the Kremlin, has
Fun.
had
Yeah.
private audiences with Pope John
Pope
Paul
John
II for her humanitarian work and
Paul.
played a pivotal role in helping African women win the Nobel Peace
Peace
Prize in
Prize. Yep.
2011.
Yes.
Her monthly Blast Her Mind Brain Trust connects high achieving women in a safe, confidential space to grow, collaborate, and lead. Clarissa Burt is not just a media personality, she's a movement maker. Is your head getting any bigger? A
No, you don't have to.
mentor
It's okay. We're
and a
good.
master of self esteem. We are back with personal journey and philosophy. Hi, Clarissa. Thank you so much for
Oh,
being on the
thanks so
podcast.
much, Chris. This is great. This is so funny. People say, "My God, Clarissa, you've done so many things." Well, I've been around a really long time. I asked her, it's not like I did all of that overnight. So,
I
but
know.
it's been great. It's been a phenomenal, run and a really, good time pulling it all together and enjoying myself along the way, as well as the difficult times, the down times, the all the rejection, as you well know, is rife in this industry. Yeah, I mean, it's been character building to say the least.
Yeah, I'd like to ask you about your acting, but I'm actually going to go right into it and say, when you were growing up, what was the time when you thought, I want to be like an actress, or I
Yeah.
want to be
Well,
an author?
I was chosen as Mary Poppins in the kindergarten play, and that was a big deal because there were two morning classes and there were two afternoon classes. So there were lots of girls to pick from. But I remember sitting behind Mrs. Bailey's piano on my sit-upon at 5 years old. And I need to show you a picture. I use this picture for other purposes, but there's 5-year-old me. And so that little girl right there was probably the loudest in the group. And I had a great penchant for music and for singing. And I can remember all of the songs, all the words to all this. You remember Puff the Magic Dragon? I knew it because I thought Puff was really a magic dragon. And so when I was 4 and 5 years old, so just I knew when I sang Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious and I got a standing ovation, I probably I was hooked right then and there. I went, you know what? I could get used to this. And I did. And that, I just knew I was going to be on a stage in some way, shape, or form with a microphone in hand.
And then one day it suddenly got up in the morning and said, "Ah, that's it. I want to be in
Well,
front of the
it wasn't
camera."
quite one day. They asked me then a couple of years later to be Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz, and my parents wouldn't allow that because they needed me at home as the
Mhm.
firstborn to take care of the other kids as we were latchkey kids. So that wasn't going to happen. It fast forwarded really to when I moved into New York City when I was 20, I guess. And, I started to do the modeling thing. I got an agency. I started to model. And then from there, I think it was 82, I moved over to Europe and stayed there for about 30 years. So that's where most of the work that I did was. So I modeled, that went really well, all over the world doing that. And then it parlayed into acting. So I had a lot of fun doing that. And then I went into production. I started to produce my own shows on Italian television, the last being 3 hour live broadcast in prime time for the Miss Universe pageant.
Yeah, it's interesting about your self-esteem regime. Like, what personal experiences led you to develop that?
Well, first of all, here's the book. And the self-esteem regime, of course, in Europe means something, a little to be a little cautious about. But regime is nothing more than an organized way of doing things. It was a little kitschy, it was a little catchy, so self-esteem regime just worked really well. This book is really more of a manual than it is anything else. It's a manual, and of course, it's a mission and a movement. And I wrote the book because there was a correlation that it was starting to really, come to the fore that my mother and my grandmother, whom I adore, did not have the same perception of themselves that I did. So my mother would down talk. My mother is a beautiful woman. So again, I'll show you the same picture, but she was a beautiful, beautiful lady, right? Don't take my picture. I come out horribly in pictures. Oh, don't do that. And my mother was also salutarian out of 800 girls at West Catholic High School in Philadelphia. And she was on the dean's list every year. So brilliant, beautiful. And every time I say, Mom, you're so pretty, or Mom, you're so smart, or, it's always, oh, no, I'm not. And don't take my picture. I come out horribly. Okay. Then my grandmother, who thought one day she needed to lose some weight, she was thin as a rail, but she wanted to lose some weight. And she took 2 diet pills. She choked on them, perforated her esophagus, and spent 6 weeks in the hospital. So I'm looking at these women kind of, what am I missing? Why do you not see what I see? Fast forward to the modeling years where the one percenters were on every runway in the world. We had, all of our, magazine covers. We had our beauty campaigns and all the things. And these gals, some of the gals there as well, were having issues with bulimia, anorexia, toxic relationships, drug use, alcohol use. Not all of them. Don't get not no. Some of the girls, and I would look at them and say, God, there are so many girls that would love to be in your position. Why are where's the unhappiness? Where's the toxicity coming from? And of course, it comes from, the family tribe. It comes from generational traumas. It comes from many different places. And it's on us to figure it all out and work it all out. So the correlation, obviously, between Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and the runways around the world was the lack of happy, healthy self-esteem. So it was really on me then to write the book I always wanted to write. And Gary Krebs, who co-wrote the book with me, or wrote the book basically with me, so co-wrote the book, saw me on stage one day, and when I got off stage, he says, I want to write your book. So we did the book, and it was great because it was 2020, just as COVID hit. We got a New York City publisher. This book has been in Barnes & Noble on the shelves for the last 5 years. And I still pinch myself, because when I was a kid, Chris, you'll remember that we had 3 bookstores: Walden Books, Border Books, and Barnes & Noble. And in the very, very back, there was a little section called Self-Help. And you
Hmm.
were lucky to find 40 or 50 books on that, but that was my go-to pre-internet, computers. That was my go-to for guidance, support, solace, information, the way out, the reason why, all the things, right? So that's kind of where I started my journey of, self-exploration, of personal development, self-improvement. And every year I would read more and more and more until I, really got to the opportunity to write my own book. So yeah.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Those self-help books, "Men Are from Mars, Women Are from Venus" by what's his name
John
again?
Gray,
John Gray. Yep.
Dr. John Gray. I've
Yep.
interviewed him on my show. Yeah.
That's awesome. So, with these, like, how do you define true self-worth, and how has that definition evolved over time?
Well, that's a really good question. First of all, self-worth is, it's a love of self. It's when you accept yourself for who you are. When you are not, I'm sorry. You're not sorry for everything. You stop all the negative self-talk. You stop insulting yourself. You don't focus on the negative anymore. There are a lot of, I call them my daily demons, right? And most of us have them at some point in our lives, right? Where it's just, you're not good enough, and, you're never going to be able to make it. Who do you think you are? All the things, right? So we all go through that. A lot of things also, when you get deeper into the lack of self-esteem is, you get into self-harm, drug abuse, addictions, like bad self-image. Like, so there's a whole bunch of different reasons why, the way, let me put it that way, that self-esteem issues, or the lack of self-esteem, that they manifest. And so these are the things that you want to be, really careful about, and mindful of as you're going along. And when you get to a certain point in your life where you go, you know what? And this is what happened to me. I fell into a really deep depression when I was a kid. I was at 25. And I fell into a very deep depression. It took me a couple of years to get out of, and I had to figure that out all by myself. There was no go-to. Again, there was no internet. You had to figure it out, right? So
Wow.
that's yeah. So I understand what the suffering is. I understand what the suffering means. I know what depression is. I know what anxiety is. And so as I grew and learned my way out, I also I cannot see, I really don't like to see other people suffer. And so I was always in the group, if you will. I was always motherly, the mother, the motherly one, the caretaker, the one that could help, and the one that most people would come to for advice. And so that always kind of made me feel real, real good.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I mean, just, the negative, all the different things, the negative self-talk, the negative body image, all the different things that again, that manifest when you aren't, feeling good. You're not feeling good about yourself. You're not feeling your best. So again, I always invite people to be on a personal development journey to make sure, because again, self-esteem doesn't discriminate. It hits us all at one point or another. And so it doesn't discriminate, and we're always a work in progress, right? There's always room for growth. For me personally, my mantra is I want to be a better person tomorrow than I am today. And how can I achieve that? It might be just a little thing. It might be I've complimented someone, or I've let somebody that pissed me off in traffic. Go ahead, go ahead. Go ahead in front. That kind of thing, right? So the softening of the edges, if you will, the not always needing to be right, the wanting to do the right thing is also a part of that emotional intelligence that we constantly need to be working on. There's no growth in any of the negative energies. Dr. Stephen Hawking came out with the vibrational energetic chart. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not. Have you ever heard of it?
No, I haven't.
So it's
Is it
one of
like the vision board, but something?
no, it's you could certainly print it out and put it in plain view, which I love to do. I love to do things along those lines as well. But it is an energetic vibrational scale, if you will, that Dr. Hawkins came out with, and it starts with the lower vibrational energies, right, which is like guilt, shame, and apathy, grief, and those, and then in the middle, you're kind of like getting by, and so it's like pride and courage and things like that, right? Acceptance as you keep going up. But then the higher energies resonate with like love, joy, peace, and enlightenment. So it's another tool, if you will, that I refer to frequently. Go, well, where am I today? Am I living in love? Am I in joy? Am I still in like acceptance? Where am I? And so it kind of helps me regulate, because we're all, I'm human. I've written the book, but it doesn't mean I always, have a perfect day. So
No,
that's
that's
one.
exactly true. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's exactly true what you're saying there. Yeah, just because he wrote a book, it's not like,
Yeah.
um,
And people used to say, wow, you wrote a book about somebody like you. Well, self-esteem doesn't discriminate, just because, I mean, it doesn't, it doesn't mean that, it's, I mean, it's like any other, like an addiction. Some of the most famous people in the world have addictions. Some of the most beautiful people in the world, have addictions. It doesn't work that way. We are all susceptible. No one is immune. And again, this is why I think that one of the greatest ways to live your life is to, again, want to be a really, just be a really good human and be a better person more than you are today, and bringing the most complete self that you can to any relationship. Have your good, strong. If I were to ask a lot of people, Chris, will you give me your top 5 on your value system? Most people don't even know there is a value system, and they don't know what values are.
Hmm.
So if you can create a list of 10 values that are and there are many of them, by the way, 10 of them that are the most important to you, in your blueprint, your, values blueprint, and bring that with you wherever you go. Bring that with you to the table. Whether it's your personal relationships, your business relationships, and anything in there in between. But know that is, that is, you're irremovable from that. You will not cross the line on any of those. And your life will change really drastically when you say, yeah, can't do that. I won't do that. I won't lie. I won't cheat. I won't steal. I won't, all those things, right? So having that value system in place is another really phenomenal tool that I think everyone should, should at least, get those 10 together, at least print them out, and then hang those up as well, and remind yourself, every day, or at least frequently,
Mm-hmm.
what the value system is.
That's true. How has
Yeah.
your time in front of the camera shaped your approach to empowering others behind the scenes?
Well, I think that the idea that the time in front of the camera has done something really, it's a deformation, if you will, of the business, and that is the comfort and ease in front of the camera, the comfort and ease on live television. You can put me on live, you can put me in front of 1,000 people, you can put me in front of 10,000 people on a stage, you can put me just you and me, and I don't get the heart palpitations anymore. I don't get anxious. There was a time back in the day when I first started on TV. Good God, Chris, I would get anxiety 2 days before I was going on live TV. It was brutal. And so today I truly feel that the beginning of my life, being as much on stage and in front of the public eye and on a microphone, it was the first part, so that I would have that kind of ease to be able to do the work that I'm doing now. And that is, to get the message out. Again, a mission, it's a manual, a mission, and a movement, the self-esteem regime. Being, anywhere I go, I'll talk about it with grand ease. And I think that is probably the best answer I have for you, is that I can be in a room of 10 people or in front of 10,000 people and be just as comfortable.
Yeah, that's true. What inspired the creation of in the Limelight Media, and what impact do you hope it continues to make?
Well, the one thing that I wanted to do, of all the things that I had already done, there was one that was still left. And when I turned 60, I said, that online platform that I've always wanted to do for women is something I'm going to do. 6 months before COVID, what do? I do the whole thing. StreamYard, all the things, right? And we launched 6 months before COVID. And that was, again, television, podcast, digital magazine. It's the same thing basically that Oprah does, and that Martha Stewart does, only they have billions of dollars and thousands of people. So I learned quickly that I was going to be putting in 15, 16, 17-hour days to be able to pull it all together.
Mm.
And we pulled in the Limelight. So in the Limelight Media is a promotional piece for entrepreneurs and solopreneurs to be able to peddle their wares, if you will. The mastermind was a part of that, as well, as I bring together women from all over the world that network with one another and help one another. It was really cool, because we were doing 12 weeks, and then each week we would do a chapter from the book, because there are 12 chapters in the book. And so it became, well, somebody had said to me, Clarissa, you really have created a safe place for us to land. Because many of the times that we were really there, if you will, for business purposes and networking, it would drift over to our personal life. Hey, everybody, I'm here today, and I probably am not going to be the best of myself, because she's a university teacher. One of my kids committed suicide this week. Halt.
Hmm.
stop everything. And so we would switch from the business to the personal. And so round robin, I would have everyone say, "Hey, okay, you, Susie Q, what would you like to offer up to, the university professor?" And we would go around. So it became a really beautiful sisterhood, of, if you will, of a place for us to, just kind of be us, and no holds barred, no filters, just raw, and there you go. So that was always, it was very satisfying, I think, for all of us to be a part of that. And I had to quit a little bit. I had to take a step away because my mom was in a very bad car accident
Hmm.
3 years ago, August 15th of 3 years ago.
Mm.
And so now we're coming out on the other side of that. And so, yeah, I'm able to dedicate a little bit, come back to work and dedicate time now.
Yeah. How do you ensure that your media content remains both empowering and entertaining?
Well, there's so much to choose from, especially because with the mastermind, the girls were all either had their own show on the channel, and they were contributing articles as well. So there's so much going on, Chris, and there is so much need for good content, things that are happening in the world today. Where, and again, we keep things pretty much beating from the heart.
Mhm.
We're not bleeding hearts, but we certainly are. Um, Putting it out there for the look good, feel good, be good, and greater good, 4 pillars of self-esteem. And every woman would be able there's a woman in there that had a special needs child. Actually, 2 women had special
Mm.
needs child. Another one that was going through a divorce. Another one whose son tried to commit suicide. I mean,
Mm.
this is all going on in the 12-week process. And when you think about the one thing I am able to reiterate time and time again is the amount of pain that is out there, the amount of difficulty that people are going through, whether it's financial, whether it's psychological, whether it's emotional, there's everybody's going through life, and life isn't always kind.
Mm.
And so I think that, the people that are doing the content the way, I wanted my in the limelight to be, needed always to be kind. We stayed away from sex, drugs, and rock and roll. You get the idea. We stayed away from religion and politics. We didn't want anything that was going to be, bring up really strong feelings. We just wanted it to be beautiful content, and that, I think, is something that you can always find if you keep you have an editorial direction that you want to undertake, which is what I did, and that's what we stuck to.
Yeah. So when you mentor women to find their voice, how do you use it effectively?
Meant to, for them to find their voice. How do I
Yeah.
use it effectively, or how do they use it effectively?
Yeah. So
Well, I think I get the question, and that is, helping with someone else find their voice. First of all, is it's a win-win, because it's a phenomenal feeling to know that anything you can do or say, anything you can bring to the table. Because remember, at this stage of the game, so many people that are in their 60s think they're aging out and that they're not productive and they have nothing more to give. And what we have to give is the wisdom that that you can't necessarily find on every street corner. You don't find it in every book. It's not at every meetup group. It's not. It's one of those kind of things that when people do are in your presence and do trust, because trust is a huge factor here. And when you help them find their voice, then they can really become more impactful in their businesses, in their relationships, and with the content that then they were that were bringing back to the to in the limelight. So it was kind of a little bit of a give and take, and definitely a win-win.
yeah. Do you believe that self-esteem is still a global issue despite decades of progress?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely. I mean, there's probably more in the way I think of especially with social media, the idea that we're constantly comparing ourselves to everybody on the internet. Look at that car, look at that dress, look at that marriage, look at that boyfriend, look at all the thing. Like, we're constantly out there. comparing ourselves to others. And you talk about the grass being, the Joneses, right? Keeping up with them and the grass being greener on the other side. I think that I offer this, and that is the grass really greener on the other side, or is it greener where you water it? So
Mm.
be really, really happy for everybody else. If they're having great success, be thrilled for them. Bring it back home. Water your own grass. Work on your own personal development, work on your own success, and work on your business, your relationships, and
Yeah.
the things that, your grass will get real, real green, real, real fast. Or is the grass always greener on the other side? Or is it astroturf? Is it fake? Is it plastic? Is it perception? Is it what they want you to believe that may not necessarily be true? And by the way, not your business.
Yeah.
None of your business,
People
right?
always say, I'll wait till my ship comes in, and I'm like, well, when my ship comes in, I always go,
Yeah.
Captain, put your glasses on again. And oh, sorry, it's not you.
Well, I would offer this up. The two things that come to mind is, first of all, did you buy your ticket? And second of all, you don't want the ship coming in. You want the ship going out, right? I don't want to wait for a ship coming in. Like, all it does is dock. Buy your ticket and be on the ship that's leaving, right? So,
Yeah.
we say a little tongue in cheek, but you get the idea.
Yeah. So during daily practice, you're talking about the 4 pillars: look good, feel good, be good, greater good. Why? Why is that important?
I think that, I think to simplify it down so that people don't think, oh my God, I'm going to buy this book of Clarissa's and I'm going to read about self-esteem. No, you're not going to read about it. You're going to do it. As if the book is, as I said, it's a manual. So we've got everything from, the Clarion Call, Clarissa's Corner, we've got homework, you've got case studies, you've got everything in between. And, the idea of the 12 chapters, each beginning with a re word. So the first chapter is release. Boom. The first thing we can do before we can do anything else is get rid of all the things that we think are etched in marble, right? Get rid of all the stuff that was, thrown at you, thrown on you, that you're carrying around with all of its weight, because a lot of the things that you were taught aren't serving you. I don't care where you picked it up from. It could be home, it could be friends, it could be educational institutions, it could even be your faith. I don't want to go down that path, but it could be. And so, there are different things. You're going, wow, do I really have to, go into the family business? I mean, I really want to, it's great and all, but I don't want to be a dentist like my dad. I want to, so noses are going to get out of joint. People are going to get their feelings hurt. And that's on you to get to work on the courage and have what the self-confidence. And, confidence is broken down as confidere. Fidere in Italian means trust. So self-confidence is trust in self. So work on your personal development, work on your, your self-improvement, do the work that, by the way, if you go to Barnes and Noble now, they've got rows upon rows upon rows upon rows of what they call the personal development section. So no excuses there. And you can get, all kinds of documents and documentaries and meetup groups and courses and classes about any realm of, let's call, personal development that you want, right? So putting aside the time for the what I call a self-care moment to actually sit down, read the book, do the work that, that's in each chapter. There's a little bit of homework and all the things but it starts to open up your, your mindset and your way of thinking, things that you will, accept, things you will not accept anymore. When you start, creating your boundaries. Most people think that boundary creating is like, it's this angry thing and you're gonna, it's not anger at all. You got to do you create your boundaries as ease, joy, and glory. And if somebody, does something that upsets you, you have that chat. And so you have the chat of, hey, can we have a moment, together? I just want to let you know that what you did, what you said, kind of made me feel in a certain way. And I'm not saying everything in the world's going to trigger you, right, Chris? I'm saying it's like something you really have to get off your chest. You can do that again with, great aplomb, with a lot of class, and just say, this is the way it made me feel. And so again, talking about, when you talk about toxic relationships, be really careful about who you give your heart to, number one. And number two, if you say that to someone and somebody comes back to you and says, oh my God, come on, for God's sake, I was just kidding. You're so sensitive. Geez Louise, like, get over yourself. You're probably looking at a toxic relationship. If somebody comes back and says, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. That is the last thing I want to do is to hurt you or offend you. Thanks for letting me know. I'll never say that again. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Boom, done. On you go. Right now, again, we don't want to be triggered by every little thing. That I'm not a huge proponent of. But cleaning things up and clearing things up, I'm on that all day long.
Yeah, actually, I know you do a lot of humanitarian work. Now, what was the significance of your audiences with Pope John Paul II, and how did that influence it? I can't like you met him, or you were just in the audience. Like you met
Mhm.
him, huh?
Yeah, the
Did you have to
picture's
kiss
right
his?
over there.
You have to kiss his ring and
Yeah,
everything.
you don't have to kiss the ring.
Wow.
Um, I'm going back now to, I think it was 2004, and I was living in Rome. I had been in Italy for many, many years, and as I said, I lived in Rome, and I worked on television there. And every weekend, because I was never married, never had children, every weekend, Friday night and Saturday night, and sometimes on Sundays, I worked on television there. So that gave me, the luxury of celebrity status, and I was called to do many different. This one wanted me, they wanted me. Come to, the police, the carabinieri, the kids, save the whales, like all the things, right? And I never said no. And I never asked for a dime because most celebrities will go to these things, but you have to pay them to go.
Hmm.
And my way of giving back, so the fourth pillar, greater good, my way of giving back was to go to these things for free
Mm.
and say to them, look, don't give me the trophy. I don't want a plaque, and don't buy me flowers. Just put that money toward it. Well, of course, invariably, I always got the flowers and I always got the plaque. I have a room full of plaques in the back, by the way, which is sweet. And the flowers I always gave to my driver to take home to his wife. And um, and so the Vatican picked up on this, all the social work that I was doing, and that's why I was called in.
That's amazing. Wow, Pope John
Yeah.
Paul. I know the vigil that back in 2005 when he passed away,
Yes.
and I was sad, like, oh, who's next? And they mentioned, oh, it was,
Yeah.
I guess you call him the Rottweiler. I guess you call him. Um,
Oh, yeah, I know the German.
It was Benedict the 16th he chose.
Ratzinger.
Ratzinger, yep.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, so that was amazing. Wow,
it was
that must have
great.
changed your life a bit, eh?
Well, it certainly was. Look, I don't stand in line for anybody. No, I like for nothing. Now, I will not stand in line. So that's one of my pet peeves. There were 12 of us that day, and I stood in that line so happily there at the Vatican, and he was already on stage, and then we got called up one by one, which was really great. I have the pictures, and it was such a beautiful moment to be recognized by him. You know, so yeah, that was awesome.
That sounds like that must have felt like quite an honor to be in his presence.
Yes. Oh,
Wow.
yes. Of course. Oh, yeah.
And so, how did your involvement in helping African women win the Nobel Peace Prize come about?
Well, again, going back to the idea of being called, because again, working in this business is an amazing thing, because when you do have, and I'm sorry to say, but it's true, the celebrity status, people obviously you can help with that celebrity status. It's not something you want to keep to yourself. It's something you want to use to be able to help others. And so that when I got that call, I was already living back in the United States, and they said, listen, we've got this thing, it's called Walking Africa. And this is, the difficulties for women in Africa, for the millions of different things that they have that are, difficult. But this one was the distances that they had to walk to get clean drinking water. And you see them coming back with the jugs on their head lots of times, and so that sort of thing. And so I agreed to do it, and I went to Brussels, and I met, in European Parliament. I met with the caravan of African women that came in to represent their countries, and it was just a beautiful moment. It's another really crowning moment that was extraordinary. It was very special.
I can imagine. Wow, you've been through so much. That's wonderful. Wow,
It's been
wonderful. Um, what does receiving international honors like the Araldo Award and knighthood mean for your mission? Wow,
fun.
knighthood.
Well, I was nominated for the Royal Order of Constantine the Great, Saint Helen, and I was very honored, obviously, and went up to be knighted just 3-4 summers ago, I think it was now.
Mm.
And it's a lovely honor. It's a beautiful thing. And with Prince Albert, I've known Prince Albert since we were kids, back in the day in Milan when I first got there to model.
Wow.
And they started some couple of years ago, pre-COVID, is he started in Italy, in different countries in Europe, to do a gala dinner. And the president of Italy's, Prince Albert Foundation got with me, and I helped them find different sponsors and different things. So this past September, almost a year ago now, they called me in as they instituted a new award, the Araldo Award, and they gave it to 10 people. And
Wow.
I was one of the 10 people that received the award from him in, again, September of last year. So
Wow.
these are lovely honors. And the idea being that when you're out in the community, whether it's local, national, or internationally, you're out in the community, doing things that you really want to do because you can, and you should, and it's the right thing to do. So there, and I never got a dime for any of this, by the way. Like, I didn't get money from the sponsors I brought to the table. I didn't get money when, as I said before, when I went to help with different charitable associations or concerns. It never crossed my mind. So I've been paid over, many, 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 many times over in different ways.
Yeah, if others came up to you and they were entrepreneurs, they're looking to build a brand with purpose and authenticity, what
Yeah,
advice would you give them?
be honest, live with integrity. And by the way, this is just going to, the more of the pillars. And again, back to that value system, be honest. Because the most important thing you're ever going to give to somebody is your word.
Hmm.
And can you imagine, Chris, if we woke up tomorrow in a world where everybody, all 8 billion of us, lived it with honesty and in honesty? Every word we spoke was honest to God's truth. Can you imagine what kind of world we'd live in? So that's really important. You want to come to the table always with integrity, your moral principles, right? I mean, that's the distinction between right and wrong, good and bad.
Mhm.
You definitely want to be living in integrity. The next thing is, obviously, it's so, but gratitude. I say drop and give me five. Like, what are you thankful for right now? And if you can't come up with 10 off the top of your head, you need to go back to the drawing board a minute and write them down. Put them again in plain sight where you can remind yourself every day. If you're not having a good, and I always say, if you're not having a good day, think about any children's hospital in the world, where the mothers are distraught because their children have, an incurable disease, or start to travel, go to India. I've been to India 3 times, and every time I go, I know I come back and I thank God to live in, the greatest country in the world, good, better, and different, and all the different, problems we have. It's always good to come home because it's rough in many other places in the world. And the last thing I would say is to live with honor. Um, you know, um, it's again who you are when nobody else is in the room, right? How are you being accountable to yourself, and making sure that you're always honoring yourself and others, I think is really, really important. Stand on principle,
That's totally
just
true.
remain adamant to your true values and beliefs. That's important.
So, what legacy do you hope to leave behind, not just in media, but in the lives of those you've touched?
It's a really great question. Again, I've never married and I don't have children, so I don't have, that sort of, well, I'd love that, my kids, I can't say all of that. But I can say that I think very humbly, as I say, I know that I have touched the lives of many people along the way, no matter what it was, no matter how I could help, no matter what it took. There, if you look around, Chris, all we have to do is look around, and there's somebody in need. And if
Yeah.
you can help fulfill that need, now look, it doesn't mean always money. It doesn't mean thousands of dollars. Sometimes it's a compliment. Sometimes it's helping a lady down, the stairs with a baby carriage. Sometimes it's just hold the damned elevator
Mhm.
door open. Just hold it open. That sort of thing. It doesn't have to be broad stroke. It could be the smaller gestures, right? Like I said, a compliment. Love that shot. Oh, that top looks so great on you. I am never going to see this woman again, and she'll never see me again. but it kind of made her day, made her feel kind of good. It was a compliment. I go on with my day, but it was a win-win. I felt great about doing it. She felt great about receiving it. It's not that complicated. We're the ones that, we do a really good job of complicating things.
Yeah. Like I mentioned about it, 8 billion people of us got up in the morning, whatever. Um, would you personally maintain a mindset of abundance and resilience in challenging times?
Knowing that you're always, you are all, there's a saying that says, I am enough. And it wants to be rafforzativo. It wants to be as a builder, a build up.
Hmm.
So I took a look one day at the actual definition of enough, and the definition of enough is only as much as is required. Only as much as is required. So just by definition, the word enough isn't enough. So the new mantra becomes, I am so much more than enough. And I think that if we, remember that, we use that now as our new mantra, we now are living in an all abundant space, and there's always enough. There's enough for everybody out there. There's enough, you can give one thing and get back tenfold. I think that's really, really, really important to remember, that also we were made by all that is perfect. So when we are looking for in ourselves, we're looking, we're down on ourselves, or we're speaking poorly to ourselves, about, whatever we've done, or, how we beat ourselves up. Just remember that we were made by all this perfect. And so just by knowing that, you've got to know that whatever their higher power, whichever you believe in, is fine, but they don't make mistakes. It doesn't make mistakes. Be
Yeah.
prepared, and prepared always to be in a constant state of evolution, because life is going to continue to trigger you, because that's what life does. Stuff's going to happen. You're going to be lied to, cheated on, stolen from. You're going to go through divorces, separations, the death of loved ones, all the things that will set us off to, the lower vibrational energies, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I remember when I watched you in Neverending Story 2.
I will make my last wish. I wish for you to have a heart.
I think you were
Zaida.
Aida. Is that how
Zaida.
that's pronounced Aida? Okay.
Zaida, yeah.
Okay. And like, how much of Clarissa was in that character? Like, how do you differentiate between self-esteem and self-confidence, and why does distinction matter?
Well, self-confidence is a part of self-esteem. Self-esteem is the overarching umbrella, and then you've got self-awareness, self-actualization, self-improvement, self-confidence, all the different things that help, that come together as a conglomeration, if you will, of
Mhm.
all that is self-esteem. The question is, what was the question then?
Yeah, the question is, like, as Aida in Neverending Story 2, we had to differentiate between self-esteem and self-confidence. Like, what kind
Yeah.
of character was Aida to
Well,
you?
I think, to me was, first of all, I really wasn't acting, but the idea that I could just lift my left eyebrow and become, really a nasty person was fun. She was definitely, I think she was definitely, she was on a power trip. So we're not talking about self-confidence or self-esteem with Zaida. We're talking about narcissism, which is a
Yeah.
uh, whole different show, So, wanting that kind of absolute power, it has nothing to do with self-esteem, or, sometimes you have to give a little bit of yourself away in order to become more powerful. And that's the part of the courage that I was talking about. Lots of times, we talk about, the going the extra mile, and that extra mile, there's nobody there with you. You can go, hey guys, come on, let's go. We're going the extra mile. And you turn around and nobody's there. And
Yeah.
nobody, and so you look ahead, and it's dark, and it's dank, and it's cold, and it's rainy. You've got no umbrella, no raincoat, no, poor, sneakers on your feet, or whatever the heck it is. You can think you see maybe there's a wolf behind the tree, but there's a little teeny light at the end of that, that tunnel, right? And so the idea is to have the courage to just keep, forging through. It's going to be scary. It's going to be dark. It's going to be uncertain. You don't know what's hanging around in the next corner, but you know that every step you take, that light,
Mhm.
right? It's really teeny, gets bigger, bolder, brighter, and more beautiful every step you take. And that therein lies the importance, right, of doing the work on yourself. Never giving up. Oh, knowing that, if you want it bad enough, you'll get it. And that what you were told doesn't always, what you were taught can be unlearned. And the toxic stops here. The
Mhm.
toxicity stops with us. This is when we learn to reparent ourselves. Thanks, mom. Thanks, dad. No, you did the best you could, and it could have been horrible, but that was the best you could bring to the table. I want to thank you for that. You made me the person that I am today. When I was 18, I knew that what I came from, and I want to thank you, but I'm going to do things a little differently. And it didn't happen overnight. My transformation, took years. Because you got it, you got to do the work, right? So yeah, you've got it also, your self-worth, and knowing that, I don't know if you've ever heard the analogy. We take a dollar bill and I show it to you. If I show you $100 bill and I say, you want this? You're going, yeah, I want it. So if I take it and I go, it's $100
Mm.
bill. It's all crumpled up. Now, do you want it? Do you ever hear this? Right? You say, yeah, I want it. I don't care if it's crumpled up or not. And you throw it on the ground and you stomp on it and you grind it into the ground with your shoes. And now it's dirty and crumply and it probably has a tear or two. It's still $100 bill. Do you want it? Well, yeah, I want it because it was worth $100 before. It might have a couple of bruises on it now, right? It might have gone through a little bit of a difficult moment, but it's still $100 bill.
Yeah, it's sort of like if you have like a
Yeah.
Lamborghini or one of those
Yes.
expensive cars, and you say you want this free car, sure, and you take an axe to it, and you take a sledgehammer to it. Do they want it now? No.
So the other part is self-reliance, right? It's like learning to depend on yourself. Nobody's coming to save you. I don't care who you are. I don't know how beautiful you are. I don't care how. It doesn't matter. No one is going to come and save you. The importance of a personal independence and being self-reliant is so key. Like, give no one the power over you ever.
Mm, yeah, I failed with that. I failed in that. Oh, I should have stepped forward and said, "I'm going to take my life back," But I never did that. I wasted like 6.5, 7 years. So
Well, it's never too late. You're still here.
no, I know. With a lot of women though, like how do you help them move from self-doubt to self-leadership? Like how does that work for you?
I mean, we have to everybody is different. So where do we want to be? You sit them down and say, okay, where are you now? Write it down. What do you need to let go of? What are those, again, we call them the limiting beliefs. Where's
Mhm.
all of that going? What are we doing with that? Okay, great. Now we know we've got at least a point that we can start from. Now, what do you want? Where do you want to be? And then it's, taking responsibility is a huge piece. A lot of people don't take responsibility for their lives, for their finances, for their relationships, for the leadership, the lack thereof. They don't take responsibility for their lives and what is actual. So take responsibility and go through some of the different um, exercises. For example, one of them is the mirror therapy in the book that I garnered from Louise Hay's works, and also Jack Canfield uses it in his book. So it was
Mm.
good enough for them. It was good enough for me, and that's where you become your best rah rah session in front of a mirror, and it's one of the most difficult exercises you will ever do, but it's also one of the most impactful. And that's when you become your own rah rah system, your own rah rah section, I should say. And it's weird and it feels weird. It looks weird. It sounds weird. It is weird. It's uncomfortable. It's all those things. But when you can look at, there are two ways to approach a mirror. One is to look in the mirror and one is to look at the mirror. When you're looking at the mirror, you're preening or you're making up, fixing your hair, checking out your tie, all the things. When you are looking in the mirror, you are screening, which means you are now, going in deeper, taking a look, going, into your eyes and into your soul. So when you start doing that kind of work and just sitting there with yourself and looking at yourself and telling yourself
Mhm.
the things that you're feeling, I want to tell you that, I think you're pretty amazing and I forgive you for the time that you stayed in that relationship too long. You knew you should have been out earlier. It's okay. We're done now. But I want to let you know I forgive you for that. I love you. And I just think you're an amazing, human being. And I love the work you're doing on yourself. And, I wanted to congratulate you also because I think you did an amazing job on that podcast the other day with Chris. I think you left some pretty good, some really great nuggets for his listeners, and good job, little things like that. Right. And come back after 21 days of that. Look, it might be a minute. If you can get up to 5 minutes a day, that's great. But if you can do a minute, and come back, in 21 days and let me know how it's working out for you. Let me know how it feels.
Mm-hmm.
These are some of the really, some of the things. And again, we should always have our tools in the shed on any given day, on any given time, that we can pull out and say, okay, today I need the rake. Well, today we need the shovel. Well, today we need the hedge trimmers. Well, today, because life is going to life. It's inevitable and it's going to trigger. And all the things, here comes a hurricane, here comes a storm. And if we are standing strong in our stead as a well-rooted tree would do, well, maybe we'll lose a leaf. We could lose a branch.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not going to be uprooted with the storm and transported away because we're well-rooted in the knowing that we have done the work. We have done our mirror work. We have, we have done the releasing. We have done the rebuilding. We have taken responsibility. We've got reinvent in here. There's all, the reciprocity. There are many different things here in the book as you go through each microcosm, I call them, and in to help you learn how to navigate the difficult times. Right. You've got to, it's like anything else. If you know that there's going to be a snowstorm, here comes a blizzard. What you're going to do, the first thing you're going to do is go out to the store and stock up. Right. It's the same concept. It's the same concept with knowing that life is going to life. There's going to be a trigger, divorce, like I said before, separation, death in the family, all the things that you've been fired. Now, you got all the tools are in the shed now. Go ahead, take your couple days, go cry, get it out of your system. I don't care what you got to do. Come back now. Let's get down to business.
That's exactly right. Yes. I know you got to feel people who feel unseen or unheard in their professional lives. Like I like the self-esteem regime. How do you want that to influence future generations?
The self-esteem regime, it's really timeless, isn't it? Because it's talking about something that has existed since the beginning of time. I mean, I'm going to go back to, let's just talk Adam and Eve for a minute. I don't know. I think, Eve probably had a couple of self-esteem, issues after she ate the apple and everybody went, damn you weren't supposed to do that. You were told not to eat the apple and you ate the apple, damn it. So, I'm going to go say she walked away from that garden going, shit, am I really that horrible of a person? So I say that a little tongue in cheek and just to have a fun moment, but it goes back to the beginning of time, the beginning of human, right? And so the beginning of humankind. And so I want to go with, it's one of those kind of things that you're never going to be exempt from. Again, it doesn't discriminate. There will always be something that's going to trigger. And again, it's on you to go, wait a minute, not today, Satan, or sorry, daily demons, not listening to that stuff anymore because I've done the work. I know better now. I'm still a work in progress, but the work that I've done is pretty darn powerful and it's keeping me living a pretty damn good life. I'm pretty happy with myself.
So have you ever gotten any meaningful feedback with
Oh yeah, all the time.
From anybody impacted by your work and things like that?
Yeah, I spoke to a woman about a month ago on the phone, and she called me. She started to cry. She said, "Clarissa, you'll never understand what your book did for me. You'll never understand, how." Because a lot of people go, "Look, all you have to do is look around, Chris, and see the amount of pain that people are going through, and it's on people like us or me or." People that are beat from the heart, the light workers, the people that really hate people to see people in pain. They're out there. Everyone, I can't believe the amount of distress and pain that's in the world. There's always a kind word to be said. There's always a shoulder that you can let somebody, I say let them cry on your shoulder, but come to you. And I think that, we're all, many of us in the world are armed with
Mhm.
kind words, with maybe some advice, support, suggestions. And people don't have to listen to you, but you know that you've done your best to give them the best of you. At least, some people just need to talk. It's that simple.
That's true. Well, here's an ultimate question for you. So, if you could collaborate with any global leader or organization, who would it be and why?
Dove self-esteem. Dove self-esteem would be my go-to. Dove the soap, right? And so they do something. It's called the Dove self-esteem campaign. And every year, I think they come out with a new one, and they teach very young girls the importance of happy, healthy self-esteem. And
Mm.
they do it in extraordinary ways. The last time that I saw the campaign they came out with, it was about the filters that young girls are using on social media
Mm.
to look older, to look sexy, to look more
Hmm.
beautiful, to look glamorous. And this is not something that 8-year and 9-year-old girls should be bothering themselves with. So
Mm.
the campaign was hashtag turn your back and hashtag no filters. And turn your back meaning turn your back on the filter, and no filters, and teaching these girls, it's just be you, just be your gorgeous, splendid self, and it'll all work out just fine. So being able to teach girls from a much earlier age that who they are, as I said before, we were created by all that is perfect. So if we can get that through to them and go, well, something pretty perfect created me, so I must be okay. And if we can, and it's really hard at that age to get that to slide through, and to get it to register is really hard in the preteen and teen years. So up until recently, our elementary school, middle school, and high school and college kids were at the top of the
Mm.
anxiety, depression, thinking about committing suicide or have committed suicide
Ooh.
list. Yeah. So there's a youth mental health crisis for sure. And this is why I say to keep, we keep our ears to the ground, if you will, and our eyes open to see maybe that kind word could help.
Mm.
Now that list has there's a new number one on the list, and it's men. Men,
Mm.
men are the ones now that have superseded the list of just wanting to end it all because the pain is so great. So this is why I say that this is a mission and a movement, because there's help. There's so
Yeah.
much help. And in so many ways, the help is out there. And men, I think, mostly after COVID, losing their jobs, not being able to provide, the pressure's too great. And I think it's really more, I was talking to somebody at a podcast before now who is a man, and he's a psychologist, and he coaches men, which is extraordinary, because guys have just as much trauma, just as much generational abuse, just as much need for help and support, and for that pressure valve, open up a pressure valve so that they can actually talk about what's bothering them, and they don't, because it's always been squelched. Men are supposed to be strong, and they're not supposed to cry, and you're all the supposed tos, right?
Hmm.
And that's where I go back to saying, all the things that you were taught that were etched in stone, they're not serving you well. So when you move on in your personal development journey, the idea is that you move on with courage, move on with that self-confidence, that trust in self, that there's no shame, no blame, and no guilt in wanting to find some help, some support, some relief, and some answers.
Wow. That's powerful. So, Clarissa, are there any new projects, initiatives you're most excited about in the coming year?
So the new book is called Living an Esteemed Life. So that'll be the second book in the series. The book now is going to become a workbook, and
Nice.
we're working on the mastermind there and the retreats. So getting people back into the room to be able to work on this stuff, tissue boxes in hand and all the things we have to do. I am not a psychiatrist. I am not a psychologist. I only come from life experience, but boy, have I experienced life. And so the idea that we can, work on the look good, feel good, be good, and greater good pillars in the room, I think is a really powerful experience.
Yeah. So, like, how do you envision the evolution of self-esteem education in schools, workplaces, and media?
Well, the evolution right now is moving toward AI, believe it or not. And
Yeah.
so
Believe it or not.
through our wearables, our ring, our watch, our devices, the computer, the telephone, AI is now going to be able to perceive your mood. It's going to know how you're feeling, and it's going to pick up on what you're saying. So if you write an email and it says, hey, Susie Q, having a horrible day, one of my best friends died, and I just can't deal with the pain, and I'm thinking of ending it all myself. AI is going to go ding, 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 and it's going to come to your. Now I'm paraphrasing because you can look this up and find better wording. But it's going to come to your rescue with different ways, tools, and advice that it can give you in the moment. And this is when you're texting. This is when you're sending an email. This is through, again, your wearables, because all of these things are sending information back to the mothership, right? And so I think, look, I don't know enough about it yet because it's still kind of new as technology, but it may be something you opt into as opposed to not. I don't know, but it is it's kind of cool because it's a preventative. But it's kind of scary because it's like, damn, they're listening to every damn thing I do and say. So AI is the next step, definitely, in what is the personal development industry, and
Mhm.
that's So that's the answer to that.
That's true. Yeah,
Good.
that's amazing. I know you're called the chief assurance officer. I just wanted to ask you what that means to you.
Well, because I can assure you, I think be assured, be self-assured, be assured that. No, assured means be certain that, that by doing the work, by potentially speaking to me, by finding a coach, by getting the correct book, by doing the right course in class, that you will become the person that you want to be. Again, chapter 2, build the life that you want to be. So I just give you a little assurance, I give you a little push in the right direction. And I just like the word assurance. I just felt that it was it's a positive word.
Okay, so I have a closer question here for you. I'm just asking. You don't have to answer. So, what qualities do you believe make a great leader in today's world? And
Well,
does he have them?
I think you have to come, pretty ready. Again, I call it complete, but complete, normally means you've done a certain amount of, personal development work yourself, that you are emotionally intelligent, that you've gotten over the idea that you're an imposter, and that you're the imposter syndrome. It's like, wow, why should I be a boss? Why should I be in leadership role? Why should I be leading this team? Why should I?
Hmm.
Why should I?
Hmm.
Get over all of that. Again, the self-doubt is something you definitely cannot come to the table with. Have your value system really locked and loaded. Make sure that you learn, that you teach others the importance of a value system, because that is definitely going to work in the workplace, right? Um, um, Making sure that you also know how to lead, how to draw a line in the sand, going back to the boundaries, creating those as well with between you and the team and between the team members, I think is really important. Teaching others, I think one of the important things also is teaching others how you will and will not be treated. So that's very important when we come back to boundaries. That's really an important thing to think about. And I think to know that, your beliefs can be transmutable. Like you're believing that today, but a belief is something you continue to think. How about a belief becomes something we continue to rethink, right? Just like we were talking about reparenting ourselves after we've been parented. Might have been the best, but we went back and went, okay, I'm going to be my parent now. I'm going to teach myself the things I need to know. And I think it's the same thing with beliefs. right? Again, all that etched and sewn stuff, be really, really careful about that. Be malleable to new ideas when you are in the workplace and you're leading a team. Be a belief is something you continue to think. You think that it can also be something you continue to, you rethink, right? Like rethink things, I think is, tear it apart and then put it back together in a better way. And don't live in what's comfortable all the time. Get out of comfort. Getting out of comfort zone is so tough for some people. It's hard for me too. Get out of that. You hear the comfort zone. Get out of it. Keep pushing on that. Don't overlook that comfort zone thing. It's really, really that important. Get out of what is familiar.
Thank you so much, Clarissa. I really appreciate it. Everyone, this is the founder and CEO of Limelight Media, Clarissa Burt. Thank you so much for being on our podcast. Really appreciate the conversation. And I think the part about you meeting Pope John Paul II was the best part. That was awesome.
There's a picture out there. I think it's on my website, clarissaburt.com. You can find it there too.
Okay, because I know I like adding photos to the last when I edit the episode and upload it to the podcast. I want to make sure pictures and stuff. And
again, the Self-Esteem Regime is in Barnes & Noble. It's on Amazon everywhere. It's Kindle and Audible. So all the things.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Clarissa. Really appreciate that. I can't wait to pump this out in the world of people to watch this. I'm not sure when, probably sometime in September.
Very good.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Clarissa, bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
It all makes sense after the shrooms and the purple haze. Man, check this out. You're mugging all silly. Old school puffin' the Philly.
More and more every time. When you leave, I'm begging you not to go. Call your name 2-3 times in a row.
Nel Lazio, a Minturno, Riccardo Pazzadia scopre l'acqua calda. Con il grano si può fare festa.